Got it? That worked better than any gavel I could use. Got people's attention. Whose phone is this? Somebody's phone? See, it's your phone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We have some business that we had to take care of earlier. Hopefully, we'll get it concluded today. So we will get started. We have a quorum present. To visitors and guests will retire behind the rail. We can officially start. I want to thank you all for your cooperation. So to give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Reverend James DeGrassa, pastor of Resurrection of Our Lord Parish of Philadelphia. He is here today as the guest of Councilman O'Neill. I would ask all members, guests, and visitors to please rise.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, everybody. I've been praying since 10 o'clock to start the meeting, so let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless and anoint this moment that we find ourselves in. We ask that this moment and the decisions made now in this meeting be fruitful, and be anointed and be blessed. That the decisions that we make for our city and the people of it be fair, be genuine, be prosperous, and bring us to a good end. We pray and bless for all our leaders that serve us. Make the decisions that they make wise. And we ask you to bless our city and the people in it through God and Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Amen. Could I ask everyone to please continue to stand for just one moment, please? Thank you so much. As you all know, we had a significant tragedy in our city council family this past summer. Linda Rios Newby, very special person, a member of our family. So just like to take a moment of silence to recognize the awesome person that she was. If we can have a moment of silence, please. Thank you all for your cooperation. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of, I'm sorry. I'm a little rusty. It's been a couple of months. I'm sorry. Thank you. And again, Pastor, thank you so much for those inspiring words. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 21st, 2018, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 21st, 2018 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 21st, 2018 stand approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and this journal is approved. And the next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, there are no requests of leave of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
On behalf of the Republicans, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to genuinely thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day to come down to witness their government in action. it could be a special day. So we want to appreciate you being here. We hope that your experience today is a knowledgeable one and actually a pleasurable one, so much so that you come back again. So thank you. Thank you again for being here. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell, who will present a resolution recognizing the week of 9/15/2018 as Arts and Education Week. Would Kelly Lee and those accompanying her please join the Councilwoman at the podium? And joining Councilwoman Blackwell, we have Councilwoman Keona Sanchez, Councilman O, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Gim, and Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are honored on this first day of council back to recognize the week of September 9th to the 15th as Arts and Education Week. I want to thank all the members of the Education Committee for being here and for us being able to make this presentation.
Whereas we all know that arts education, I'm a product of arts education, comprises a rich array of disciplines including dance, music, theater, media arts, literature, design, and visual arts, and is a core academic subject which changes young people's lives and an essential element for a complete and balanced education for all students. And
whereas arts education enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline and collaboration, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding, which supports academic success across the curriculum. And
whereas arts education contributes to increased attendance and graduation rates and elevates academic achievement, and whereas arts education encourages personal growth outside of the classroom, including increasing a student's likelihood to participate in civic life, volunteerism, altruism, and community engagement. And
whereas today's economy requires students to be masterfully develop creative traits that business leaders demand in the 21st century, workforce such as communicating through words, images, sounds, and movement. And
whereas the arts are an integral part of life in the United States, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, and are an integral part of a complete education which contributes to the vibrancy and vitality of communities and the nation. And
whereas the City of Philadelphia's Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy observes National Arts and Education Week with an annual A-plus art student exhibition featuring the work from more than 200 students from our public schools from across the city.
Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council does hereby recognize the week of September 11 through 17, 2000, well, it's really this week, as Arts and Education Week in Philadelphia. Further resolved that engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to the Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy as a sincere expression of the City Council of Philadelphia's gratitude to honor this occasion. And this was certainly signed by the President and agreed to by everyone. Thank you.
And the chair recognizes Ms. Lee for remarks.
Great. On behalf of the Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, and our whole team is here, we'd like to thank members of City Council for the designation of this week as Arts and Education Week in Philadelphia. It has been so well documented that the students who have access to arts education are 5 times more likely to graduate, 30% more likely to aspire to college, and are more civically minded and engaged in their communities. City Council's ongoing support of arts education is integral to this positive impact on Philadelphia students. The Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy invites all of you to continue the celebration of Arts in Education Week in Philadelphia this evening at the opening reception of the 9th Annual A+ Arts Student Exhibition from 4 to 6 p.m. in Conversation Hall. The exhibition features over 200 artworks from K through 12 students representing all 10 council districts and recognizes the arts as a vital part of a well-rounded education. Thank you again, City Council, for all of your support and declaring this week Arts and Education Week in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Councilor Biddies. Thank you. Our next order of business is communications, and the chair requested the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. Mr. Decker, when you get ready, please read those messages.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, pursuant to Sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the Council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Bill numbers 180601, 180604, 180692, 180697, 180698, 180701, and 180702. And I am pleased to advise you that on June 21, June 28, June 10, and September 13, 2018, I signed all the bills that were passed by Council on June 14, 2018, except Bill number 180465, which I am returning without my signature, and Bill number 180077. And that on June 21, June 28, July 18, August 22nd, and September 13, 2018, I signed all the bills that were passed by Council on June 21, 2018, except Bill number 180430, which I am returning without my signature, and Bill numbers 170678A, 180347A, 180351A, and 180498. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Director of Commerce to convey to UL Grant Avenue Limited Liability Company a parcel of land located in the vicinity of the intersection of Grant Avenue and Academy Road, together with all improvements thereon. And also an ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code by amending Subcode PM, the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code, to amend provisions relating to periodic inspections of piers and other waterfront structures. And an ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code by amending Subcode B, the Philadelphia Building Code, and Subcode F, the Philadelphia Fire Code, to add sections requiring fire sprinklers in portions of certain buildings. And an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2019 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance, provision for other grants, to the General Fund, the Director of Finance, and the Housing Trust Fund, the Department of Planning and Development, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. And those messages will be printed in today's journal. You have any additional communication?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning.
This morning, I offer 3 resolutions, one on your behalf.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome.
A privilege resolution honoring and recognizing and celebrating Girard College for the 50th anniversary of its desegregation. And a privilege resolution authorizing the committee.
Wait, to vote.
And a privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Law and Government to hold public hearings to examine the benefits of providing child care in courtrooms for jurors and others involved in court business, and to evaluate the feasibility of instituting such a child care system in Philadelphia.
And those resolutions will be referred to today's final passes calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution urging the Pennsylvania State Legislature to pass House Bill 2060, which provides further protections to victims of domestic violence.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer 3 bills, 3 privilege resolutions. I almost said revolutions. I don't know where we're going. 3 privilege resolutions, 2 non-privileged resolutions, and I wish to be recognized after the title of the resolution recalling bill number 180498 is read for a motion on that resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Locust Street and 46th Street, 46th Street and Larchwood Street, and 57th Street and Chestnut Street.
Refer to committee.
And an ordinance establishing a parking regulation on Spring Garden Street, north side, 34th Street to 33rd Street.
Refer to committee.
And an ordinance establishing a parking regulation on 33rd Street, both sides, Haverford Avenue to Wallace Street.
Also refer to committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing the week of September 9 through 15, 2018 as Arts and Education Week in Philadelphia.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution hereby proclaiming the week of October 15, 2018 Philly Financial Literacy Week.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and honoring Richard Cornish for his work in Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where he gives of his time styling the hair of both patients and caregivers for the Salon Services Program, which raises morale and instills joy and dignity in those receiving his services.
And that will be on this week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the creation of a special committee on 400 years of African American history to evaluate the impact of African Americans have had on the history of this country and acknowledging the creation of the Federal Commission by the same name that was formed in recognition of the 400-year anniversary of the arrival of Africans in the English colonies at Old Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619.
That's the one, this one, the next one. That will be on next week's, that's one. Councilwoman, you wanted the next, you wanted to be recognized after the next resolution?
Say that again.
Yes.
Right. And a non-privileged resolution requesting the mayor to return to council Bill number 180498 entitled, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to provide for the procedures for the administrative review process, all under certain terms and conditions, for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. That resolution will be considered on today's final passage calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I offer two bills.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Section 9212 of the Philadelphia Code by prohibiting newsstands on the north side of Arch Street between 18th Street and 19th Street.
For the committee.
And an ordinance amending Section 710 entitled Dumping of Debris and Short Dumping by adding new provisions, and amending Section 10719 entitled Penalties by further amending the maximum penalty to be assessed.
And that will also be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. Today I offer 2 bills and 3 resolutions, 1 privileged and 2 not privileged.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Dittman Street from Cotman Avenue to Rawn Street.
For the committee.
And an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on the 4100 and 4200 blocks of Passmore Street, both sides.
For the committee.
And a privileged resolution honoring the 231st anniversary of the signing of the United States Constitution and recognizing September 17th as Constitution Day in the city of Philadelphia.
This week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on the legislature of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to oppose House Bill 2654, a proposal concerning small cell wireless facilities, which would remove local control of the public right-of-way and municipal infrastructure, and further reaffirming the authority of municipalities and cities of the first class to regulate the public right-of-way.
And be on next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on the United States Senate to oppose Senate Bill 3157, known as the Streamlined Small Cell Deployment Act, which would considerably limit local control of the public right-of-way and municipal infrastructure, and further reaffirming the authority of local government to regulate the public right-of-way.
And that will also be in next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. 1 bill, 2 privileged resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Parker Avenue, Ridge Avenue, Cinnaminson Street, and Mitchell Street.
For the committee.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold public hearings to examine sheriff sale trends throughout the city since the existence of Philadelphia's residential mortgage foreclosure diversion program, and further examine the impact of sheriff sales on the city's affordable housing market.
And that will be on this week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution supporting the National Minority Business Development Agency and recognizing October 1 through October 5, 2018 as Philadelphia Minority Enterprise Development Med Week, which provides critical information, resources, opportunities, and inspiration to the minority business community.
This week's calendar, and Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I have 3 bills, 1 privileged, and 2 non-privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Wharton Street and 16th Street, Rosewood Street and Mifflin Street, Porter Street and Broad Street, Azimenger Street and Oregon Avenue, Montrose Street and 19th Street, Catherine Street and Banbury Street. And an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Grace Ferry Avenue and Christian Street and 23rd Street, Dorrance Street and Catherine Street, Azimenger Street and Johnston Street, Camac Street and Tasker Street, 17th Street and Fitzwater Street, Montrose Street, and 21st Street. And an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Christian Street and 22nd Street, 15th Street and Wolf Street, Wharton Street and 15th Street, Pemberton Street and 22nd Street, and Bainbridge Street and 26th Street.
Those three bills just read by the chief clerk will be referred to committee.
And a privilege resolution honoring Maurice Mo Cheeks for his induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame.
This week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution urging Congress to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, which helps to prevent and respond to domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution appointing Joshua Harris to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Land Bank.
And that will be on next week's calendar. And Chair recognizes Councilwoman Jannie Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer 5 bills and 2 non-privileged resolutions, and I wish to be recognized after the title of the resolution recalling Bill 180347A is read, and then again after the title of resolution recalling Bill 170678A is read for the motion on each of those resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising Chapter 14.500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating a Market Street Frankfurt Elevated Overlay District. And an ordinance authorizing Esperanza Health to install on and maintain a proposed entrance patio encroachment at 861 East Allegheny Avenue. And an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Penn Street and Kennedy Street, Masher Street and Norris Street. And an ordinance amending Chapter 21-1600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Housing Trust Fund to authorize the establishment of separate sub-funds to receive, respectively, revenues attributable to recording fees and revenues from sources other than recording fees, to provide for and authorize the manner in which such revenues may be appropriated and spent, and to designate the agency within the city government responsible for administering the Housing Trust Fund. And an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2019 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance provision for other grants, to the General Fund, the Director of Finance, and the Housing Trust Fund, the Department of Planning and Development.
Those bills just read by the chief clerk will be referred to the appropriate committees.
And a non-privileged resolution requesting the mayor to return to council bill number 180347A entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 21-1600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Housing Trust Fund to authorize the establishment of separate sub-funds to receive, respectively, revenues attributable to recording fees and revenues attributable to certain payments required upon construction of certain real estate for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Jannie Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit consideration of the resolution on today's final passage calendar.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is approved, and we will consider that final passage calendar today.
And a resolution, non-privileged resolution, requesting the mayor to return to council bill number 170678A entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 7 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Housing Code by adding a new chapter 7200 entitled Mixed Income Housing Program to provide for affordable housing standards, amending section 14702 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Mixed Income Housing to make related changes, amending chapters 14600 and 14700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled respectively Use Regulations and Development Standards to amend certain zoning standards relating to residential development, for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Jannie Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is approved, and we will hear that on the final passage calendar today. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I have one privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing the committees on disabled and persons with special needs and education to hold hearings to examine current and best practices on secondary transition services for Philadelphia public school students.
And that will be on today's final pass of calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill that is co-sponsored by yourself and council members Greenlee, Brown, Gim, Jones, and Taubenberger, and 2 privileged and 2 non-privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Section 10840 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Criminal and Defiant Trespassers to clarify and modify applicable definitions, penalties, and procedures, and to make certain technical changes.
Further committee.
And a privilege resolution honoring and recognizing Catherine Coleman Goebel Johnson on her 100th birthday for her extraordinary bravery and brilliance in mathematics.
Today's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and honoring the member of the Links Incorporated's Philadelphia chapter, Delaware Valley chapter, and Pentown chapter.
Today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution urging the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to pass Senate Bill 501, which would require the relinquishment of all guns within 24 hours by individuals who are the subject of protection from abuse orders, shorten the time defendants convicted of misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence must surrender their guns from 60 days to 48 hours, and prohibit allowing friends and family members outside of abusers' households to store firearms surrendered by these individuals.
And that will be on next week's final passes calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on the United States Congress to support the passage of the Rent Relief Act.
And it will also be on next week's final passes calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Morning, Council President. I have one privileged resolution co-sponsored by Council members Johnson, Parker, Bass, and Gim.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Finance to hold hearings to examine the state of the City of Philadelphia municipal retirement system, including the pension system's existing plan entitlements, contributions, and investment strategies.
And that will be on today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. I have 2 privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A privilege resolution honoring Philadelphia tennis and basketball legend Ora Washington upon her posthumous enshrinement in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, class of 2018.
And today's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing September 9 through September 15, 2018 as Suicide Prevention Week in the City of Philadelphia, and affirming the need for suicide prevention awareness and robust mental health services.
Also on today's calendar. And the chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Morning, Council President. Today I offer one privileged resolution, which has been co-sponsored by all members of council, and I thank them, and one privileged resolution, and I wish to be recognized after the title of the resolution, recalling Bill number 180077 is read for a motion on that resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution honoring and recognizing Second Lieutenant John Edward James, Jr. for his service during World War II, and recognizing the Museum of the American Revolution Chairman and Acting CEO, General John Jumper, for righting the wrongs of the past and helping to commission Private John Edward James, Jr. to Second Lieutenant John Edward James, Jr.
And that will be on today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution requesting the mayor to return to council bill number 180077 entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Privilege Taxes by eliminating for new businesses the requirement to make an estimated payment when filing a return for their first tax year of business operations and allowing the estimated payment in succeeding years to be made in quarterly installments for the purpose of reconsideration by the council and the vote by which said bill pass council.
Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is approved, and that will be on today's final passage calendar. The chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 2 bills by request.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away regulations on Commerce Way from McNulty Road to its terminus further northeastwardly therefrom. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Director of Commerce on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to UL Grant Avenue Limited Liability Corporation, a parcel of land located in the vicinity of the intersection of Grant Avenue and Academy Road, together with all improvements thereon.
Those two bills will be referred to the appropriate committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer 6 bills, one on your behalf. That one is co-sponsored by Councilwoman Sanchez, Councilwoman Brown, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Gim, and Councilman Jones, and 3 non-privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman.
I also wish to be recognized after the title of the resolution recalling Bill number 180351A is read for a motion on this resolution.
Thank you.
An ordinance providing for the recurring funding to support equitable neighborhood development by preserving middle neighborhoods, constructing affordable housing units available for sale or rent, providing assistance to Philadelphians who desire to become homeowners, and directing council to appropriate revenues for said purposes to the Department of Planning and Development, Division of Housing and Community Development. And an ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code by amending Subcode B, the Philadelphia Building Code, and Subcode F, the Philadelphia Fire Code, to add sections requiring fire sprinklers in portions of certain buildings. And an ordinance amending Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Building Construction and Occupancy Code by amending Subcode PM, the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code, to amend provisions relating to periodic inspections of piers and other waterfront structures. And an ordinance adopting an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation of the Old City Special Services District of Philadelphia to extend the term of that authority. And an ordinance amending Section 10704 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Litter on Sidewalks to authorize agreements with the Department of Streets for the placement of privately owned waste and recycling receptacles in the right-of-way. And an ordinance approving a new plan, estimated costs, and proposed method of assessment of the Old City Special Services District of Philadelphia for and concerning business improvements and administrative services to the Old City area of the City of Philadelphia.
Those 6 bills just read by the Chief Clerk will be referred to the appropriate committees.
And a privilege resolution recognizing the 85th anniversary of the Ukrainian genocide of 1932-1933.
And today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming St. Alma's Street between 7th and 8th Streets as Eddie Lang Way.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution requesting the mayor to return to council bill number 180351A entitled an ordinance providing for the payment to the city upon the construction of certain real estate and directing the council to appropriate revenues from such payments to the Department of Planning and Development, Division of Housing and Community Development in order to support equitable neighborhood development by constructing affordable housing, including units for sale or rent, and by providing assistance to Philadelphians who desire to become homeowners for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
And Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules of council be suspended to permit the consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is approved and it shall be on the final passage calendar today. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 4 bills and 2 privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 19-1300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Real Estate Taxes by providing for the termination of real estate tax abatements for certain improvements to or construction of certain residential, commercial, industrial, or other business properties.
For the committee.
And an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to create a new 8th District overlay and to prohibit certain uses therein.
For the committee.
And an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Mentor Street at Old York Road, Carlisle Street at Loudon Street, and 19th Street at Olney Avenue.
For the committee.
And an ordinance amending Section 9-213 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Farmers Markets by adding a permissible location on Germantown Avenue.
For the committee.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings on environmental health disparities and the impact of pollutants in at-risk neighborhoods.
And that'll be today's calendar.
And a privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings on the proliferation of unlicensed and unregulated recovery homes in the city of Philadelphia.
And that will also be in today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I offer 6 privilege resolutions, co-sponsored by council members Parker, Bass, Reynolds, Brown, Blackwell, Squilla, Taubenberger, Don, and Kim. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Health and Human Services to hold hearings to examine the possibility of the Department of Human Services creating objective guidelines and uniform reporting standards for personnel who are tasked with protecting children in Philadelphia from abuse while preventing the tragedy of unjustified family separations.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution honoring and recognizing the late, great Donald Gardner, the accomplished artist and executive director of the Philadelphia Clef Club of Jazz.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing September 2018 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia and celebrating the 17th annual PRO-ACT recovery walks to promote recovery and work to end the stigma of surrounding drug and alcohol addiction.
This week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing, commemorating, and celebrating the centennial anniversary of the historic First Korean Congress held in Philadelphia from April 14th to April 16th, 2019. And a privilege resolution recognizing, celebrating, and honoring the Korean United Church of Philadelphia on the occasion of its 50th anniversary.
Also on this week's calendar. Thank you very much. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. Our next order of business is reports from committee, and the chair recognizes Councilman Green for a report from the Special Committee on Regulatory Reform and Review.
Thank you, Council President. The Special Committee on Regulatory Review and Reform issues a report pursuant to Resolution Number 170179.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Special Committee on Regulatory Review and Reform, to which is referred Resolution Number 170179, entitled, "A Resolution Authorizing the Creation of a Special Committee on Regulatory Review and Reform to Identify Archaic, Superfluous, and Confusing Provisions in the Philadelphia Code and in Departmental Regulations, and to recommend revisions that streamline, clarify, and enhance the city's regulatory environment for the purpose of accelerating the growth of well-paying jobs in Philadelphia while ensuring the safety and well-being of its residents. Respectful reports that the committee held hearings as authorized by Resolution Number 170179 on September 12, 2018, and that the committee issues to the council the attached report on the matters discussed at the hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. There being no bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up for the second reading and final passage calendars today. Bill numbers 180711, 180295A, 180552, 180600, 180603. All other resolutions and bills are being held. In addition, 180555. All other bills and resolutions are being held today.
Thank you very much, Councilman. So before considering these resolutions and bills, we will consider our public comment session. It will go as follows. If you are interested in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, we'd ask if you have not already done so, please sign up at the table to my left. When your name is called, you go to the podium in the middle of the council chambers. There's a device with a light on it. When a light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we'd ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks. Thank you very much for your anticipated cooperation with these guidelines. Mr. Decker, please call the first name on the list.
Fred Sneed Ali. Commenting on 180-100.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, City Council President and all the wonderful staff that's in this room. I'm here as representative for the Alpha Center. Good afternoon, Council President Gerald Clark and his wonderful staff. Oh.
Let's speak into the mic.
Are you ready? Good. Good afternoon, Councilman President Darrell Clark and all his wonderful staff, the council people that's in this room, and the people that's here to represent what's going on in our Philadelphia community. I'm here to represent the Alpha Center that's Temple proposed. One thing that I would like to say, when the snake came into our garden, he came to our women. The snake of the day is crack cocaine and opioid pills. And the product that comes out of that, we will have a problem. And because Temple was trying to build a place, a daycare, in honor of, in respect of autism or mental health or personal health use, I'm in 100% support of that. That's it.
Thank you for your testimony.
Gregory Bonaparte. Commenting on 180-100.
Good evening, Council President.
Good afternoon.
And staff. I'm here, one, to represent Berean Presbyterian Church that sits on Broad and Diamond as a trustee, and to represent the pastor and the congregation. They are totally in favor of the Alpha building because it can bring great resources to the church as well as the community, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Joe Danahill. Commenting on 180-100.
Good afternoon. This is the official decree of the people in writ mandamus quo warranto, and as such requires immediate action remedy. Every week, council, mayor, and others transfer private property to government, probably illegally. I quote, "A ship of state or government does not drift into unconstitutional waters. It is directed there by oath-violating officials," end quote. Council, mayor, governor, senator, and others were repeatedly notified of my constitutional violation allegations and know my rights were violated. Our council, mayor, governor, senator, and others spending HUD low-income housing money on the commercial mall to be built on my stolen home. Clearly, officials have declared war on their constituents, the sovereign people, violating numerous amendments. Bill 180676 shows contempt for the governed. You have sworn an oath to obey and protect. Auditable proof of consent of the governed must be provided to fulfill your oath. Constituents demanded of the representatives. The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of clause, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987, 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 23A1, 23A4, 23A4, PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 11, 26 PA, CSA, 703, 705, 708, 709, 712, 713, 716, and other laws listed in SCOTUS 1589-65, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call for the federal and Commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations to investigate and prosecute all involved in the theft and illegal deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue, the denial of God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 24 years is egregious, extraordinary, oath-violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. This color of law government must have its charter of government revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse their sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight a fire. The sovereign people require oath constitutional laws be enforced, and jail is required for all who violate oath constitutional law. I remind council, it takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow monumental corruption.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Jay Benich. Commenting on 180-100.
Afternoon.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Benich. I'm a resident of North Philadelphia. I live at 19th and Diamond Streets. I am here to state my opposition to the Alpha Center being built in my neighborhood. Over the years that I've lived in the same house for 10 years, I have watched the growth of Temple devastate my neighborhood. I have watched it push residents out. I have watched it change policies and change the way of the life of the people around me. I have watched you, Mr. Clark, sell our neighborhood off to the highest bidders for years. You allowed PHA to remove long-term homeowners. You are allowing Temple to run native North Philadelphians out of this neighborhood. Our numbers have decreased. Why are there not a lot of people here? Because you ran half of us out of the neighborhood. There are no voters left. North Philadelphia is being destroyed by the growth of Temple, by Eric Blumenfeld, developers that you're bidding our neighborhoods off to, and by you allowing a housing authority who is there to provide housing for poor people to run poor people out of their neighborhood. This Alpha Center is not a good idea. It's a bribe for Temple. It's a way for them to make money, and it's going to run the small daycares and preschools out of the neighborhood. We have small centers that are struggling already, where the workers and the educators understand the culture of our children, they are used to our children, and they are used to us, and they properly educate them. And when somebody comes with an Alpha Center, what happens? Everybody runs Alpha, which means a dominant person in a certain spirit. So this is psychologically going to lean people towards, oh, let me take my kids out of here and run them over to this Alpha Center. This is Temple saying that we're better than everybody else. We are the alpha male around here, because they're clearly not saying that our children are going to become alphas because they failed on 5 schools that they were supposed to reform. This is all a ploy for them to make money, for them to bribe us into having a stadium in our neighborhood, and then we have to accept the stadium in order to get them to clean up the trash after their own students. This is ridiculous. There has to become a time that you realize that your constituents are North Philadelphians. Your constituents are not President Engler. Your constituents are not Eric Blumenfeld and Ed Hillish. Your constituents are not Kelvin Jeremiah. Your constituents are us, the poor people who are being ran out of our neighborhoods, who have to live every day in fear. Are you going to pass some kind of law that's going to change my whole way of life? Are you going to pass some kind of bill that's going to run? Are you going to give my house away after I paid all my taxes and my bills? We don't want this center. We don't need any more peanuts from Temple, because all they're doing is destroying us, over-policing us, and stealing every little bit of culture that we have left in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Michael Brody.
My
Good afternoon.
remarks originally said good morning. Good day, City Council President and members of the Philadelphia City Council. My name is Michael Brody. I am president of the Mental Health Partnerships, a organization that provides behavioral health services to the greater Philadelphia area to over 10,000 people, as well as Delaware and Southwest New Jersey. I want to thank the City Council and especially Councilwoman Kim for giving me the opportunity to speak on a very important issue of suicide prevention, a topic, as you well noted a few minutes ago, that unfortunately hit close to home for council this past summer, and for considering a resolution this week of recognizing September 10th, 2018 as National Suicide Prevention Week. One of the hallmarks of the work we do at MHP is peer support. It is one of our core beliefs that people with a behavioral health condition can and do recover from behavioral health issues. Over 60% of our staff has lived experience or has a family member with a lived experience. This past summer, one of our managers received a text from somebody we serve saying that she was thinking of committing suicide. In response to that, he asked her the 3 essential questions: do you have a plan? Do you have intent? And do you have a means to do that? And she said yes to all 3. He asked her, do you want help? And he sensed a hesitancy in her voice. And when he asked her, what are you hesitant about? She said, I'd like to get some help, but I'm concerned about what's going to happen to my cat. He listened and made preparations to have somebody take care of her cat such that she could go and hospitalize herself and be taken care of. After she was discharged from the hospital, she called our manager to thank him for 2 things. One, for asking her if she needed to receive treatment and care instead of forcing her to receive that treatment and care. And second, and most importantly, really listening to her needs and helping her to create a plan for support. Because we made the choice to actively listen and to support her needs, she was able to make use of services and make choices to better her life, and today she is on her path of recovery. The recent losses of Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain and many others have only served to highlight what we already know, that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in this country in a series of complex and societal problems. And like many mental health conditions, this crosses lines of economic and social status, race, and gender. It is the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 24, and is the 10th leading cause of death in this country, trailing only diseases like cancer, heart disease, and others. These are disheartening numbers, but I'm able to offer this ray of hope that has been gleaned from the day-to-day work that we do. With the right support, suicide is preventable and recovery is possible. I want to thank you for your time and ask that you continue to be active listeners and to support services that give people real choices to create their own recovery journey. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Donna Richardson. Commenting on 180-100.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Donna Richardson. I'm a program administrator for the Norris Holmes Summer Camp and After School Program. I am all for the Alpha Center. Not to push anyone out, because we have more kids than we have programs. So we need the programs. Also, I don't hear anyone speaking about the halfway houses that they're building. No protests. I don't see nobody protesting these delis. No protests. Or these stores that they're building on the corners and acting like they're grocery stores, but they're selling all kind of narcotics out of here. No protest. But we protest an Alpha Center that's going to have for special needs children. You protested. Early childhood development, you protested. Or you're saying that you're going to bring in employment, which if we sit down and can guarantee that this employment will be in the surrounding community, not for just a few years and then you realize that maybe it is just temple employees, but you make sure that that agreement sets out of the life of that program. I don't see people protesting the fact that you're walking in the alleyways. You just want empty alleyways, but then you say in the suburbs, you see all these beautiful things. That's because the suburbs not going to let these little gas stations keep being built all over. These little corner stores that's not bringing the value to it. And why are we arguing about if you own your house or rent your house? Why is not everybody equal? So if you're a homeowner, it means one thing, but if you're a renter, it's another thing. And then you argue about PHA. How do you know what PHA is really doing and not doing if you have not walked in their shoes? Because there's a lot of people benefit from the PHA program. And if you want to talk about PHA, let's talk about the fact that they have an entrepreneurship program, and they have a home ownership program, and that they're taking people back to schools for GEDs and then send them out on the Philly C program for scholarships. And they're teaching them how to become entrepreneurs in CDL and all the nursing programs, but they're free. They're not costing them nothing. So I'm for the Alpha Center because not just because it's Temple, no, because I'll fight Temple like anything else if it's wrong. But I have seen where our children that's went through the program, math is up 63%. Reading is up 76%. We came with children who were low scored to honor roll students. A couple of our children had left. They went from our program into the summer work program that was affiliated with our program until college. We have young men that have just joined Temple's police department and the city police department. People are going out and they're interested in. Do you know the percentage of PHA residents who are now owning their homes and are still in the program to buy, and the kids are now going to college? The dropout rate that was once there when it came to the Norris community to see if they could put any kids in a program who have dropped out, they couldn't find one. And you're against it.
Thank you.
I'm for it.
Thank you, Ms. Winston.
Jacqueline Wiggins. Commenting on 180-100.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Wiggins. Bill 180100 is on hold again as of today. Temple University wants to amend Philadelphia zoning maps and adopt the master plan amendment for the university to approve construction on the site of what is being called an Alpha Center. It is to house the early learning program, a dental clinic, etc. My focus is on the early learning center, as people and families find affordable and convenient the Temple University School of Dentistry. So why that's in there, we don't know. But the grave, difficult piece is the Early Learning Center. First, it will be used to conduct research on fragile, vulnerable 3 to 5-year-olds. It will also undercut existing small early learning center businesses. Black people and black families do not need to be studied or researched anymore. The reality is that black children, black families do not need to be test specimens or guinea pigs to advance Temple University's College of Education goal to secure continuing research funding. How cagey, how deceptive. The card that I have, and I think that every council member should have it by now, shows how Temple University did not turn around 5 schools. The reading and math scores are abysmal. Now Temple wants our younger children. As a committee person of the 32nd Ward 11th Division, a No Stadium, No Deal coalition member, as a retired teacher educator, and as someone who knows this Alpha Center is being used to gain favor for a 35,000-seat stadium to be built at Broad and Norris, we implore City Council members to vote no, no, no on 180100. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your testimony.
Bianca Parker. Commenting on 180-100.
Hello,
Good afternoon.
my name is Bianca Parker, and I'm a resident. And I want to say no and urge my council members to reject and do not allow the passage of Bill number 180100, which will authorize the furtherance of predatory encroachment of Temple University's campus footprint, extend spend district. Extend spend district, building of a research facility, and expansion of Temple police surveillance, and subject our African American children to racial experiments. Camera surveillance is a common research method utilized in studies, just as the Tuskegee experiments exploited African Americans for scholarly and scientific gain. Temple University plans the Alpha Center for Research of African American North Philadelphia preschool children. This plan also completes with existing area daycares. Temple failed 4 schools during 5 years of a school district funding contract. Young African American children will be subject to mental health treatment and study. As staff ungraded, Temple University students will would be treatment providers at the psychology clinic. Patients of Temple University Psychology Clinic would be subject to research studies. Temple must abandon plans for Alfred Center to expand campus. Temple must abandon plans to subject African American children and African American adults to research studies, and Temple must abandon plans for dental clinic that already exist. I'm going to voice opposition to this travesty. I'm going to speak up and out against Temple. And I urge my council members to vote no to early learning, research, and mental health labeling of African American preschool-aged children in North Philadelphia. And I urge the council members to vote no to bill number 180100.
Thank you. Gina Case.
Good afternoon. My name is Gina, and I'm from the Tacony section of Philadelphia. I am here in support of Councilwoman Cindy Bass's proposal to offer regulation for recovery homes in Philadelphia. In 2017, 1,217 individuals lost their lives to overdose. That's 1,217. That's families, children, those that love the person who are now left to deal with raising children, financial hardships in order to get through day to day. Councilwoman is proposing that the 100 unlicensed homes in the city of Philadelphia be regulated and licensed. This would give an opportunity to offer safe housing, treatment incentives, and other resources to families, for addicts, people who are addicted. Sometimes my brother would call me and say, hey, Jean, can you take me to go get treatment? And we would run around the city and we would go to a hospital and they'd say, you know what, you're not capitated to here. You got to go to the outpatient center here, or come back. Guess what? We don't have a bed. Come back every morning at 7 a.m. and there will be an inpatient bed ready for you. You just have to keep coming back every day at 7 a.m. till there's an opening. And I would go with him. And the 5th day, there was an opening. The problem was the insurance then denied him. There was multiple times where addicts know what they need and we don't listen, or we deny the financial piece to support it. They're forced then to go to recovery houses, and often unlicensed. Let's talk about the incarceration rate for those who are addicted. What other option do they have to fund their addiction? They're often committing crimes, end up in the criminal system, and yes, there may be treatment programs in the prisons, but there's no real good plan for reintegration. My brother died 10 days after release from prison. He was discharged with no housing plan. He was told to go to a recovery house, and he never had any resources. While my mother would take him in again and again, it also became times where she couldn't handle it anymore. It was times where, her own financial stress and personal emotional stress became a lot. And that's why we relied on these resources that are available in the city of Philadelphia. However, they weren't available oftentimes to my brother. I also just want to add that in terms of the Councilwoman's, thank you, Councilwoman. And I just want to add that, just for 1 second, I apologize, that those in recovery pay $150 to $200 a week to live there. They also offer up their food stamps. It's impossible to maintain that, and it's no recovery in these recovery homes. There's no professional in there measuring data, using evidence-based practices, and that will complete
All right.
my...
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Case. Chair recognizes Mr. Decker. Before you call next, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank Gina for her testimony, and also for being so gracious. She brought in a picture of myself and her brother, James Fiorentino. And so I just really wanted to say thank you so much for sharing that. I believe he was at one of our summer events where this picture was taken, and just wanted to recognize that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. No, I can't. All right, Ms. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Ruth Burchett. Commenting on 180-100.
Thank you. Many of you council people received a copy of this yesterday. It's Temple University's report card for being the education management organization for 5 neighborhood schools from 2002 to 2007. Temple University got a failing grade, and now Temple University wants to experiment on our children. We say no, we're not having it. I have served as a block captain for 30 years in the city of Philadelphia. I've served as a Democratic committee person, and now I stand as ward leader, Republican ward leader of the 32nd Ward. We're sick and tired of the contempt of the Democratic Party here in the city of Philadelphia, particularly for poor neighborhoods such as ours in North Philadelphia. And we are going to answer to every wrong that's been done to us at the ballot box. All of you come up for election next year, and you need to know that when councilmatic prerogative is invoked and is harmful to our communities, that we're tired of it, and we don't like your buddy system of voting along with your council people. My question today is, what is the purpose in the city charter for at-large members? If you aren't able to take an independent stand on things, we will not tolerate Temple University continuing to use the miserable statistics that we live under every single day in our community to encroach on our community, to gain PhDs and publications on our backs. We have enough footprints on our backs in North Philadelphia thanks to John Street and Darrell Clark. We're fed up, we're tired, we're taxpayers too, and we expect you to listen to us as well and not just disregard it. It is an affront to every citizen in the city of Philadelphia that Councilman Clark would push this bill out of Rules Committee, then suspend council rules in order for it to go directly to passage and be on the calendar today. That's not fair, it's not right, it's not just in Philadelphia, the birthplace of America.
Ms. Decker, our next speaker.
Kathleen McGettigan. Commenting on 180-100.
Okay, hello. If I were to say that I live in Old City, I don't care about what happens in North Philadelphia. I don't care about the social and economic welfare in North Philadelphia. I'm ignorant of what the African American community in Philadelphia has given to the world. I don't care about Paul Robeson. I don't care about John Coltrane. I don't care about the possibility that we may have future Coltranes, Marian Andersons, etc., waiting in the wings in North Philadelphia. If I were to say that, I would expect to be hissed out of this chamber because it's not right. Now, if you're going to build a deer-proof fence around the 20th Ward and make sure that nobody, station ICE agents at the corner and make sure that nobody ever leaves the 20th Ward and comes into Old City, then fine. But I think the Alpha Center is an issue for everybody in this city because what happens in North Philadelphia impacts the rest of us. Also, you can judge, I think the only way to judge the future performance of an institution is based on their past history. Well, Temple University in 5 years ran 4 Philadelphia schools into the ground. Temple University is not alone in this. We all know about the Tuskegee experiment. And closer to home, you can read in Acres of Skin how the University of Pennsylvania Dermatology Department experimented on helpless prisoners. And then more recently, University of Pennsylvania more or less doomed a young man with a congenital disease by treating him with an experimental, unproven remedy, I think a virus. Okay. Okay, I think that's about it. So I oppose the building of the Alpha Center because I don't think it's for the welfare of North Philadelphia. It's an obvious attempt for a Temple University to encroach on areas outside of its current area boundaries, and it means gentrification. So I oppose it, and I don't think it's in the welfare of Philadelphia at large. Thank you.
Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Norman O'Neill. Commenting on 180-100.
Yes, how you doing, City Council? My name is Norman O'Neill, and I'm just here to reaffirm and speak in support of the opposition of the Alpha Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rustin Oler. Commenting on 180-498.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rustin Oler, COO and owner of Harmon Deutsch Architecture. I'm here on behalf of the BIA to give public remarks on bill number 180-498, which is being recalled today. In particular, section 16A, administrative review. It is the limit of 30 days or 120 days, as I believe is being proposed today, that is our greatest concern and causes an impossible hardship on the owner of a property. As a background, my architecture firm has pulled hundreds of zoning and building permits this year alone. Through the nature of our business, I personally appear in front of the ZBA on a weekly basis to assist builders, developers, investors, and homeowners in obtaining zoning variances. Without these variances, their projects and their properties would not be viable. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control that arise through the remaining city approval process, these variances require some sort of amendment. On average, 30% of the variances we obtain require an amendment in the past year. This may have to happen at any point throughout the process, even during construction. Several of these factors are entirely posed on the owner of a property due to rules and regulations put into place by another City of Philadelphia department, including but not limited to license inspections with the adoption of the new building code, Philadelphia Streets Department with the Checklist 2 approval process, Philadelphia Water Department with the stormwater approval and utility plan approval process. Some of these processes take months to complete and result in dimensional changes to the zoning variances previously granted. The majority of these amendments are very small in nature. Since this bill has been introduced, our firm alone has had approximately a dozen projects with necessary changes to pilot houses, roof decks, elevator overruns, parking configurations, first floor recess entries, etc., that are minor dimensional changes resulting in no change to the use variances granted. Because of the pending bill, these haven't been able to be submitted. All of these were determined after the proposed 120-day period. Should this bill pass as currently drafted, all these projects will require new zoning applications, new refusals, new appeals, new RCO meetings, and new ZBA hearings. This process would not only cause an unnecessary hardship to the property owner, but would burden the City of Philadelphia with an unnecessary use of resources and time, and result in a total failure to the zoning variance process. The ZBA is already currently overburdened by the amount of cases that they hear, and it's continuously taking longer to get hearing dates and have notice of decision processed. This would exacerbate this problem even further by drastically increasing the amount of cases the ZBA would need to rehear. These are just small examples of the impact of this bill will have on construction and development in the City of Philadelphia. The BI feels that the repercussions of this bill at this time are beyond measure and that no time limit to amend a previously approved variance should be placed upon the recipient of a variance issued by the zoning board. In order for our city to continue to prosper and its ongoing development to continue, zoning variances or special exceptions should be allowed to be amended as long as the zoning permit is valid and in full force and effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Jeanette Patton. Commenting on 170-675.
Yes, on the move. My name is Jeanette Patton, but I'm mostly known by the name of Pam Africa, Minister of Consultation for the MOVE organization. I'm here because of the concern of the zoning. I don't have these glasses on, right? The ordinance of Can't see this really good. Well, anyway, it's got to do, what I'm talking about is the zoning area that deals with the 2400 block of 59th Street in the zoning area. There was a resolution passed here in June calling for the 2400 block of 59th Street to be named Wilson Good Way. I'm very opposed to that, and the reason why I'm opposed to that is because the former mayor of Philadelphia orchestrated a situation where 11 members of my family, men, women, and children, was bombed to death. A situation that was caused where we're suffering today. My sister Ramona Africa is in a hospital fighting for her life because of what happened on May 13th, 1985. The reason, again, why I'm bringing this up, and I really want to have a solution to a problem that is getting ready to affect Philadelphia in a very terrible way. When people found out that in this district, this zoning district, that this street was going to be named Wilson Good Way, people was opposed. They went, and I'll do the abbreviation, WTF, WTF, WTF. And it means simply, what the, and you can figure out the other 4 letters that begin with an F. What is going on in this city that you would name a street after a man that was responsible for the murder of 11 men, women, and children? What the F are we thinking about when we put neighbors who had nothing to do with that? The neighbors in the 1200 block of 59th Street, sir, please pay attention to what I'm saying. And the neighbors in that area, the havoc that you're bringing to them, because that's going to become a point of resistance to a bombing that took place that killed 11 men, women, and children. I came today like I came before in 1978, before the massacre of my family and the murder of a cop by the Philadelphia police, James Ramp, and I came to you before the May 13th, 1985 bombing to warn you about what is going on here. These neighbors, my family, and the city of Philadelphia is on the map again. You kind of had a scar over top of the wound, but you done ripped it open, and people are looking again at a city that dropped a bomb on black men, women, and children. And this also had to do with just what's happening today. Urban renewal.
Ma'am, I have to.
Sir,
Your 3 minutes are up, please.
I see the red light. And what I want to say, we got to sit down and have a meeting, and to stop this. I'm begging, I'm pleading, because all hell is going to break out in this city because of an illegal, an unconscionable WTF resolution calling for a street named after a cold-blooded murder. I'm telling you this, we will not be silent.
Ma'am, I have to.
And today is
you
another
had your
day.
3 minutes, please.
On the move. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We will not be silent.
Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Linda Roken. Commenting on one.
I just want to follow up with that. I was appalled when I found out that this resolution was passed. I sat in here today and looked around and counted at least over 11 African American elected officials, black elected officials, that I am plaguing myself trying to figure out how they could have let this kind of resolution to have Wilson Good be named after a street, how that could have even passed. And I remember on that day, May 13th in 1985, I woke up with a phone call from a friend to turn on my television because this city government was attacking the family Africa, known as MOVE. And I watched it, and I watched the whole thing unfold. I watched the bomb drop. I watched that bomb dropped on this family that had women and babies, children, and I watched the fire burn. And at the end of all of this, I saw where Wilson Good was going to come on and have a press conference. Oh boy, I sat there with bated breath, waiting for him to come out because I knew heads were going to roll. But he came out, and you know what he said? This man that you want to name a street after came on the TV and said that he took full responsibility for it, and if he had to do it again, he'd do it again. I am appalled that this city council will let a resolution like that pass. It needs to be rescinded.
Mr. Decker, anyone else?
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Resolution 180711.
A resolution also naming the 2900 block of Home Avenue in honor of police officer Timothy Simpson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan. Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the adoption of resolution, please say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, Resolution 180711 is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill Number 180295A.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending the one-year rule, modifying certain public notice requirements, and making related changes.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the, or thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption.
Wait a minute.
Isn't there an amendment?
Councilwoman, don't you have an amendment for this bill?
I do apologize. Yes, we have offered an amendment, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion second on that? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 180295A be adopted. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill Number 180552.
An ordinance authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the Sinking Fund Commission for the payment of such bonds, authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment of liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with the issuance of the bonds, and certain other actions.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is shall the bill pass finally. I understand this bill will require a 2/3 vote. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Members voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill Number 180555.
An ordinance amending Section 9204 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Vendors in Center City, and Section 9205 entitled Sidewalk Sales, to exempt sales of fresh fruits and vegetables on the abutting sidewalk of a property by the owner or tenant of that property from the requirements of Sections 9204 and 9205.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is shall the bill pass finally. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
The ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of members vote in the affirmative. The bill passes. Ms. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 180600.
An ordinance amending Chapter 193200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Keystone Opportunity Zone, Economic Development District, and Strategic Development Area by providing for further Keystone Opportunity Expansion Zones.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you very much. I'd like to offer an amendment to this bill, which has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and seconded the amendment be adopted. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment to Bill number 180600 is adopted. And Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 180603.
An ordinance amending Chapter 192900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Senior Citizen Low Income Special Tax Provisions by providing for regulations relating to eligibility.
Its bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Cunha Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Toppenberger, Council President Clark.
The ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of members vote in the affirmative. The bill passes. You ready? Yeah. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution, other resolutions you have in your possession.
A resolution honoring and recognizing and celebrating Girard College for the 50th anniversary of its desegregation, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown on behalf of Council President Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Law and Government to hold public hearings to examine the benefits of providing child care in courtrooms for jurors and others involved in court business and to evaluate the feasibility of instituting such child care system in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I look forward to a robust discussion on this long overdue issue. I move for its adoption.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing the week of September 9 through 15, 2018 as Arts and Education Week in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell. Oh, she's not there. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, please make a motion for the
Yes.
Councilwoman.
Be happy to. On behalf of Councilwoman Blackwell, I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution hereby proclaiming the week of October 15, 2018, Philly Financial Literacy Week, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair, one more time, recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Of course, Mr. President, on behalf of Councilwoman Blackwell, I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring of Richard Cornish for his work in Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where he gives of his time styling the hair of both patients and caregivers for the Salon Services Program, which raises morale and instills joy and dignity in those receiving his services, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair, one more time, recognizes Councilman Heenan on behalf of Councilwoman Blackwell.
On behalf of Councilwoman Blackwell, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution requesting the mayor to return to Council Bill number 180498, entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to provide for the procedures for the administrative review process for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair, one more time, recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring the 231st anniversary of the signing of the United States Constitution and recognizing September 17th as Constitution Day in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Heenan.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second, and all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold public hearings to examine sheriff sale trends throughout the city since the existence of Philadelphia's residential mortgage foreclosure diversion program, and further examine the impact of sheriff sales on the city's affordable housing market, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That is adopted. Hold on one second, Mr. Decker. Let the record reflect. As I was out of the room, I would like to be recording as voting aye on all bills or resolutions that I missed. Please proceed, Mr. Decker.
And a resolution supporting the National Minority Business Development Agency and recognizing October 1 through October 5, 2018 as Philadelphia Minority Enterprise Development Med Week, which provides critical information, resources, opportunities, and inspiration to the minority business community. Introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair one more time recognizes Councilman Jones. Again, I move for the adoption. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring Maurice Mo Cheeks for his induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson, I'm sorry.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution requesting the mayor to return to Council Bill number 180347A, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 21-1600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Housing Trust Fund, to authorize the establishment of separate sub-funds to receive, respectively, revenues attributable to recording fees and revenues attributable to certain payments required under construction of certain real estate for the purpose of reconsideration by the council, the vote by which said bill passed council. Introduced by Councilwoman Sanchez.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Keona Sanchez.
I move for its adoption.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution requesting the mayor to return to Council Bill number 170678A, entitled an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Housing Code, by adding a new Chapter 7200 entitled Mixed Income Housing Program to provide for affordable housing standards, introduced by Councilwoman Keona Sanchez.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Keona Sanchez.
I move for its adoption.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the committees on the disabled and persons with special needs and education to hold hearings to examine current and best practices on secondary transition services for Philadelphia's public school students, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing Catherine Coleman Goebel Johnson on her 100th birthday for her extraordinary bravery and brilliance in mathematics, introduced by Councilwoman Parker.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring the members of the Links Incorporated's Philadelphia Chapter, Delaware Valley Chapter, and Pentown Chapter, introduced by Councilwoman Parker.
Chair one more time recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Finance to hold hearings to examine the state of the City of Philadelphia municipal retirement system, including the pension system's existing plan, entitlements, contributions, and investment strategies, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring Philadelphia tennis and basketball legend Ora Washington upon her posthumous enshrinement in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, class of 2018, introduced by Councilwoman Gim.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing September 9 through September 15, 2018 as Suicide Prevention Week in the City of Philadelphia and affirming the need for suicide prevention awareness and robust mental health services. Introduced by Councilwoman Gim.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for its adoption.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing Second Lieutenant John Edward James Jr. for his service during World War II and recognizing the Museum of the American Revolution Chairman and Acting CEO, General John Jumper, for righting the wrongs of the past and helping to commission Private John Edward James Jr. to Second Lieutenant John Edward James Jr., introduced by Councilman Taubenberger.
Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution requesting the mayor to return to Council Bill number 180077, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Business Privilege Taxes, by eliminating for new businesses the requirement to make an estimated payment when filing a return for their first tax year of business operations for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council. Introduced by Councilman Taubenberger.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing the 85th anniversary of the Ukrainian genocide of 1932 through 1933, introduced by Councilman Squilla.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution. Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution requesting the mayor to return to Council Bill number 180351A, entitled a resolution providing for a payment to the city upon the construction of certain real estate and directing council to appropriate revenues from such payments to the Department of Planning and Development, Division of Housing and Community Development, in order to support equitable neighborhood development by constructing affordable housing for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council, introduced by Councilman Squilla.
Chair one more time recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the rules of council to be, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Health and Human Services to hold hearings on environmental health disparities and the impact of pollutants in at-risk neighborhoods, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Health and Human Services to hold hearings on the proliferation of unlicensed and unregulated recovery homes in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing Council's Committee on Health and Human Services to hold hearings to examine the possibility of the Department of Human Services creating objective guidelines and uniform reporting standards for personnel who are tasked with protecting children in Philadelphia from abuse while preventing the tragedy of unjustified family separations, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing the late, great Donald Gardner, the accomplished artist and executive director of the Philadelphia Clef Club of Jazz, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing September 2018 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia and celebrating the 17th annual ProAct Recovery Walks to promote recovery and work to end the stigma of surrounding drug and alcohol addiction, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing, commemorating, and celebrating the centennial anniversary of the historic First Korean Congress held in Philadelphia from April 14th to April 16th, 1919, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair again recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. On behalf of Councilwoman Helen Gim and myself, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second? Did I get a second? It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing, celebrating, and honoring the Korean United Church of Philadelphia on the occasion of its 50th anniversary, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair again recognizes Councilman O.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Drum roll. It is now time for special business. And the chair now recognizes Councilman Taubenberger for a motion regarding special business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the motion passes. Mr. Decker, please read the letter from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am returning herewith, as requested by your resolution adopted today, Bill number 180077, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Business Privilege Taxes, by eliminating for new businesses the requirement to make an estimated payment when filing a return for their first tax year of business operations, for the purpose of reconsideration by the Council of the vote by which said bill passed Council.
Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger for a motion that council reconsider the vote by which bill number 180077 was passed.
So moved, Mr. President.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. The majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries, and the vote by which bill number 180077 was passed has been reconsidered. Bill number 180077 will be placed on the end of today's calendar. There being no other special business at this time, we will return to the consideration of the calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 180077.
An ordinance amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Business Privilege Taxes, by eliminating for new businesses the requirement to make an estimated payment when filing a return for their first tax year of business operations, and allowing the estimated payment in succeeding years to be made in quarterly installments.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Taubenberger for an amendment to Bill number 180077.
Thank you, Council President. I offer an amendment to Bill number 180077. A copy of this amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 180077 be adopted. All in favor will indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and Bill number 180077 has been amended. This bill will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell again for special business for a motion regarding special business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit consideration of special business at this time.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the motion passes. Mr. Decker will please read the letter from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am returning herewith, as requested by your resolution adopted today, Bill number 180498, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to provide for the procedures for the administrative review process, for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell for a motion that council reconsider the vote by which bill number 180498 was passed.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries, and the vote by which bill number 180498 was passed has been reconsidered. Bill number 180498 will be placed at the end of today's calendar. There being no other special business at this time, we will return to the consideration of the calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 180498.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to provide for the procedures for the administrative review process, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell for an amendment to bill number 180498.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer an amendment to bill number 180498. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 180-498 be adopted. All in favor will indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And Bill number 180-498 has been amended. This bill will be placed on our final passage calendar for our next session of council. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez for a motion regarding special business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the motion passes. And Mr. Decker, please read the letter from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I'm returning herewith as requested by your resolution adopted today, Bill number 180347A, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 21-1600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Housing Trust Fund, to authorize the establishment of separate sub-funds to receive, respectively, revenues attributable to recording fees and revenues attributable to certain payments required upon construction of certain real estate for the purpose of reconsideration by the Council of the vote by which said bill passed Council.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez for a motion for the vote, can reconsider the vote by which Bill number 180-347A was passed.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries, and the vote by which Bill number 180-347A was passed has been reconsidered. Bill number 180-347A will be placed at the end of today's calendar. There being no other special business at this time, we will return to the consideration of the calendar. And the chair now recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez again for a motion regarding special business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And the motion passes. Mr. Decker, please read the letter from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I'm returning herewith as requested by your resolution adopted today, Bill number 170678A, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 7 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Housing Code, by adding a new chapter 7200 entitled Mixed Income Housing Program to provide for affordable housing standards, amending section 14702 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Mixed Income Housing to make related changes, amending chapters 14600 and 14700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled respectively Use Regulations and Development Standards, to amend certain zoning standards related to residential development and make related amendments for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez for a motion that council reconsider the vote by which bill number 170678A was passed.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries, and the vote by which bill number 170678A was passed has been reconsidered. Bill number 170678A will be placed at the end of today's calendar. There being no other special business at this time, we will return to the consideration of the calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 170678A.
An ordinance amending Title 7 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Housing Code by adding a new chapter 7200 entitled Mixed Income Housing Program to provide for affordable housing standards, amending section 14702 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Mixed Income Housing to make related changes, amending chapters 14600 and 14700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled respectively Use Regulations and Development Standards to amend certain zoning standards relating to residential development.
And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez for an amendment to bill number 170678A.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer an amendment to bill number 170678A. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move forward for its adoption.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 170678 be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and bill number 170678A has been amended. This bill will be placed on the final passage calendar for our next session of council. Now, the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion regarding special business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of special business at this time. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Mr. Decker, please read the letter from the mayor.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am returning herewith, as requested by your resolution adopted today, Bill number 180351A, entitled An Ordinance Providing for a Payment to the City upon the Construction of Certain Real Estate and directing the Council to appropriate revenues from such payments to the Department of Planning and Development, Division of Housing and Community Development, in order to support equitable neighborhood development by constructing affordable housing, including units for sale or rent, and by providing assistance to Philadelphians who desire to become homeowners, for the purpose of reconsideration by the council of the vote by which said bill passed council.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion that council reconsider the vote by which bill number 180-351A was passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the vote by which bill number 180-351A was passed be reconsidered. Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries, and the vote by which bill number 180-351A was passed has been reconsidered. Bill number 180-351 will be placed at the end of today's calendar. There being no other special business at this time, we will return to the consideration of the calendar. And that completes our calendar for today. And any, good? All right. Seems like we're missing something, right? Are there any speeches on the part of the minority? None? Everybody's tired. Any speeches on behalf of the majority? And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the great honor of just making an announcement about two events taking place in Northwest Philadelphia this weekend. The first one is called Hope for Philly. Hope for Philly, and you've heard Solomon Jones talking a lot about this on the radio. The Great Commission Church and Believers Bible Fellowship, along with Mount Airy Baptist Church, is going to be held at Pennypacker School, 1858 East Washington Lane. It's right on the corner of Washington Lane and Thoron Avenue. Free food, carnival games, a job fair, social services, a gospel ministry. It starts at 11 and it is over at 3. Again, that's this Saturday, September the 15th, from 11 to 3 at Pennypacker School. We hope you all will join us. The final event, Mr. President, is one that I am extremely proud of, and want to start by giving a hearty thanks to our two partners. The first is Pastor Waller and Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, along with Susan Cook, who is the founder of Future Minds. This year, we are celebrating our 11th annual College, Vocational, and Labor Fair. It will be held at Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, located at 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on this Saturday. I want to just note for the record, particularly for parents and even non-traditional students, since we learned from NPR that 74% of undergrads are not the traditional teenager living on campus enrolled full-time that we thought they were. I want you to know that there will be more than 50 colleges and universities at this event. We want to note, just for the record, Alabama State, FAMU, Franklin and Marshall, IUP, North Carolina Central, Seton Hall, Thaddeus Stevens, Tuskegee, and Wilberforce, and many more. We'll also have Graduate Philadelphia, FIA, and the UNCF, because people need to learn how to pay for their higher education. And one of the things we're most happy about, Mr. President, is that this year we have multiple business and building trades apprenticeship programs with us. We want to say a special thank you to those who are from First Builders, James Thompson, along with CAP, the Construction Apprenticeship Program, along with District Council 1199C, Sheet Metal Workers Union 19, Finishing Trades Institute with District Council 21, IBEW Local 98, Local 14 from the Heat and Frost Insulators, Union Roofers, Waterproofers, TWU, which is the Transport Workers Union, Iron Workers 401, Operating Engineers from 542, the Carpenters, Yo ACAP, along with the Laborers District Council, Fire Department, along with the Police Academy, Brightwood, and Empire. All of this is happening right in our neighborhood. It's not happening in the suburbs. You can get it right in Northwest Philadelphia. So we encourage everyone to come, no matter where you live at in the city of Philadelphia, and join us at E9 on this Saturday from 11 to 2, 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue. And we want to thank each and every one of our partners. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. There being no additional speeches, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at 10 a.m.
Got a second? Second. It's been moved and properly seconded that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you all very much. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I'm good.